Hi there folks, welcome back to the IB and Andy Fishing channel. I hope you're doing really well. Particularly big welcome to those of you who subscribed in the last month or so. Huge thanks to IB for holding up the fort while I've been super busy with work, lots of guiding, my busy period sort of May and June. So thank you very much to those of you who have subbed. Thank you very much to IB for providing some fantastic videos while I've been away. But I've finally managed to find some time to come back out onto the river to do a little bit of fishing. Now I want to kick off by saying straight away, I know we've had a real long period here of hot dry weather in the UK. A lot of people have backed off the rivers, I completely understand that. We had about 10 mil of rain yesterday up here and it has just lifted these rivers, it's dropped the water temperatures slightly, so I'm absolutely confident that I'm doing no harm here by fishing for these fish. I've checked the temperature of the water, it's absolutely fine. I've come out to do something that I've actually done quite a lot so far this season on guided days, and that's fishing the duo on a Euro rig. Only got one rod with me. I've actually borrowed IB's Euro Nymphing rig. It's a 10'8" 0-2 weight rod, really nice piece of kit this. I've paired it with the 15 metre French leader from our Euro Nymphing in a box kit. I'll talk more about why I particularly like to use that for this technique as we go. Small selection of flies, a few specific design duo dry flies, just small selection of light to medium weight nymphs for the right kind of water we're going to fish. A couple of spools of tippet, a few bits and pieces to help me on the way, and that is it. Very minimal kit. So we're fishing the River Derwent in Derbyshire today on the Haddon Estate. It's just coming up to midday, and as I say, we had a bit of water yesterday. We had 10, 11, 12 mil of rain in the last 24 hours, and you can see it's lifted the river slightly. It's just freshened it up a little bit, little tinge of colour. I think it looks fantastic for a fish. That's enough waffling though. Let's jump into this river. Let's talk about why we would use the duo on a Euro rig, in what specific situations, and where I think the real advantages are. Let's go catch a few. Okay, first pool of the day, and probably not the kind of water I was thinking of initially. The water I want to fish is actually above me, but what I don't want to do is walk through all of this without having at least given it a bit of a fish through. Actually, while I was just getting cameras and stuff sorted, there was a fish rose below me. So my first port of call here is a couple of little downstreamers. Oh, I'm not watching. A couple of little downstreamers down here, just to see if I can get that fish that rose about 2 minutes ago it was, to lift again. Very, very shallow water initially directly in front of me here, so I'm small on the fly. This is a quill jig with a 2 mil bead, so it's going to make casting it a little bit harder, particularly into a slight upstream breeze. It's going to make getting this thing out there a little bit more complicated, but once I get up to the good bit, the bit I'm anticipating fishing, I'll be able to switch to a slightly heavier bead, try and make that stuff a bit easier. Fishing at a couple of rod lengths at the moment, nothing too long, too crazy. Try and get a bit of a downstream drift out of this. I might even chuck a couple slightly more square on my way up. As I say, it's the water in front of me that I'm anticipating finding most of the fish out of, but I don't want to ignore this stuff below me just yet. And what I'll do here is I'll cast and step my way around this pool pretty quickly, just at the bottom end, fish it through fairly fast, might cycle through a fly change or two on my way through. Work my way up to that top bit where I think the bulk of these fish are going to be in these water conditions. Low water, it has had a little bit of a lift overnight, which is nice to see, but it is still low, so I'm assuming that most of these fish are going to be up near the heads of the pools. So we'll make our way up there fairly smartly. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with that very, very shallow stuff now, so I've treated myself to a fly change. Put a size 16 orange tag on there. It's a 2.8 mil bead, so quite a lot bigger than what I had on before, and immediately there cast a lot easier. Got it into that wind. Loads of good water, complex piece of water though this, lots of different lines of flow, lots of different seams. Again, this is where I think the duo on the Euro rig makes life a little bit easier, because again you can hold that line over the top of those complex bits of water, the seams and stuff, and the sag of the line in the air isn't an issue in a way it would be if you were fishing fly line. Don't have to fish this at long distances. Obviously, the further you can cast it in theory, the more advantage you've got, but you don't have to fish it miles. I mean, that's plenty. I'm about 2.5 rod lengths there, and that is plenty for me. Oh, there's a fish. That's not taken long. What have we got there? Little grayling on the orange tag. Come here, thank you very much. Okay, yeah, a little bit further up, but we're off the mark. Well, that's the hardest fish of the day out of the way. Probably also the hardest fish to hold during the course of the day. Nice. Well, maybe we stay up the main feed line for a little bit longer then. Let's see if he's got any friends in there. Little bit of a tinge of colour to this compared to what there has been previously. It's nice to see. Bit of water overnight, bit more water coming through. I can see against the edges that it is, oh there's another fish, that it is a little bit deeper than it was before. Okay, that feels a little bit bigger, that one, so I think we'll get him on the reel. Let's see what this guy does. What's your plan here, buddy? Drag on this reels, set really nicely. Ah, nice brownie. Nice brownie. Not a huge fish, but a day full of those would be lovely. Come on, you. Strong fish, that's for sure. Yeah, nice fish. Nice fish, there we go. Always happy to see these guys. That's a gorgeous looking fish. Great colours. Thank you very much for that, matey. Yeah, nice start. A couple of fish in the first 5 minutes. Just to sort of get the arm loose, get things going. Everything seems to be working nicely. Just keep sort of picking away up here. This gets deep pretty quickly as I go up, so I'm not going to be able to fish right to the top of this. So I'm probably just fishing over the back of this where it shelves up, which is often a nice place to be. That orange tag seems to be working okay for the moment. No need to change him. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. There are a few down there. There we go. That's not taken many casts at all. Another Grayling this time. Thank you very much. Just a wee one. Oh, it was just a wee one. He's off. Yeah, things seem to be working all right. Obviously, one of the absolute critical parts of this is being able to cast this effectively. Now, as I said at the start, I'm fishing this on a French leader, on essentially a very long tapered leader, a 15-metre long tapered leader. Now, if you're a fan of a mono rig, if you fish like a Spanish leader or something like that, it still works on that. Personally, I like this on the French leader for that taper. I just think it transmits the energy a little bit better than straight mono does, but you could do it on either. I don't think it works as effectively if you're fishing a Euro nymphing fly line, like a Phipps legal proper fly line, because you just get the same problems as you have with a normal fly line. You get the extra sag, you get the extra drag. Your control of it isn't quite as good. So for me, if you're going to fish this, you want to fish it on one of the monofilament type rigs rather than on a fly line rig. So the whole thing here hinges around me being able to cast this effectively, and having taught a lot of people to do this, I find that the one thing people struggle with when they're first learning this is that actually you're not going to get the feel in the backcast like you would with fly line. A lot of people rely on being able to feel what's going on, and actually you don't really get that with this because there's no mass, there's no weight to sort of load the rod against, really. Just pretty much loading the rod against its own weight. And because people can't feel what's happening behind them, they tend to rush. The problem with that is exactly the same as if you rush a fly line cast. You sort of miss the sweet spot, you miss the area where you'd want to start your forward cast. So it's really important when you're doing this that you let your back cast fully turn over and then hit your forward cast, and vice versa. If you're having to forward cast it as well, you want to make sure both of these casts fully extend before you start the cast in the next direction. And you can see that I've probably got 2.5 rod lengths of line out here between rod tip and fly, and that's enough. As I said earlier, the more you can put out, the better. It's an advantage if you can fish a little bit longer, as it would be if you were casting fly line. But if you're just starting with this, just take it easy on yourself. Try and fish at a rod length to start with, then a rod and a half length. Ooh, that was a take. And just sort of ease your way into the distances. It doesn't have to go miles straight away. So I'm fishing a single 2.8mm nymph here with quite a air resistant dry fly on. So it takes a little bit of casting. It's not something that often comes naturally to folks, this, I find. So just take it easy, give yourself a chance to figure it out, and actually you'll find it's not that difficult as long as you don't try and push it too hard. Righty, bit of a change. So I've gone longer on the dropper, so I've probably put another foot on there, so I'm probably about 2 and a bit foot, 2.5 foot maybe, which I think will be enough. And because of the extra depth, I've also gone a little bit heavier on the point fly. So I've now got a 3mm caddy scrub on there, nice obvious fly in that slightly coloured riffly water. They're not going to have loads of light down there. And then because of the extra weight on the fly, I've put a bigger dry fly on as well. So I've put the big duo clink hammer on there. That thing could hold up a nation. The little duo caddis I had on before would probably just about have held this up, but it would have been just about. There'd have been a lot more dress in it. And while further back in this pool I did think there was a genuine chance of me getting one on the dry fly, it's probably a smaller probability of that happening up at this top end where it's deeper, a bit faster, a bit more riffly. So there's less onus on that dry fly here to catch me fish at the top of this pool. At the bottom of it where I started, there was a pretty good chance of a fish eating that, so we'll switch to the clink. See a nice high rod holding that leader off the water. It's less affected by these conflicting currents, and the currents are all over the place. Can still give this a little bit of animation. This is the area where I think the rigging that I've done should pay off, just in this deep mulch here in the middle. There should be fish sat there. I probably wasn't anywhere near getting down towards where they're sat with the previous rigs, so we'll give this a good go through here. Just searching all this bit by bit, using the full length of the rod where I need to try and get the drift quality that I want. Lots of little nooks and crannies and corners and holes in here. Left hand's working hard to keep up with the fly line on this one because I'm in the faster water. It's in that far seam again. It's a lovely area. I'd expect there to be a fish in there. There is. Would expect there to be a fish in there. What have we got? Looks like another grayling. Oh God, I've just let go of the amateur hour, just let go of the leader. He was in the net and out, everything's going on here. Come on. Ah, dearie me. Absolute amateur hour for a moment there. Well, I guess what you saw there was the advantage and disadvantage of using that mono leader. It was great for holding off and getting me a good quality drift. Not so easy to hold on to when you're playing a fish. Just as this grayling is proving pretty hard to hold on to. There we go. Thank you very much, pal. And you know what? Having slipped that fish back, I reckon it's time for a change of scenery. Let's go and find a new pool. Okay, so slightly different piece of water from that first pool, but I don't mind that too much. I've stuck with the same rigging just for the time being. So I've still got the big clink hammer on, I've still got the caddy scrub underneath it, but I've got a feeling that could change pretty soon because this piece of water is a little bit different to where we were just. I'll be honest, I'm borderline here fishing this on the duo or just fishing this conventional tight line. It's quite sort of variable depth in this, and I think it's the one area where sometimes that duo rig can struggle a little bit. Is, oh, that's a nice fish as well, it's a good grayling straight away. One area where I feel like sometimes the duo rig can struggle with is if you've got a big variation in the depth of the water you're trying to fish. Oh, it is a good grayling. As it is, just fishing that inside line, it hasn't really made a difference. Ah, it's a good one. By the standards of the Derwent, that's about as big as they often get, to be honest. Just in the corner of the mouth there. So come on, that'll do, buddy. I'm a bit cramped for room here. Right, keep him moving. No, don't want to put too much pressure on that hook hole because it's just in the corner. There we go. Well, that didn't take long, did it? We like those. Cool, yes, please. That is a nice handful of Derwent grayling. Come on, buddy. Let's get you back. Sweet. Okay, so what I was trying to say there before that grayling rudely interrupted us was that where I think this duo maybe is a bit of a, or at a bit of a disadvantage in comparison to just regular tight line nymphing, is in variable depth. And I know there's lots of big rocks and stuff down here. It's a bit of a fly graveyard, this pool, to be honest. Lost a lot of flies in here over the years, but caught quite a few fish because those big rocks down there that make it difficult to fish also make it great habitat. The reason I've stuck with the duo here rather than go tight line is that actually I'm working on the assumption that most of the fishing I'm going to do here will be on either side of the main flow line, in the slacks, in the eddies, in the seams. And actually fishing it this way will give me a much bigger advantage presentation wise over the tight line stuff, which is never quite right in the seams. Don't get me wrong, it's a very, very good presentation, but because you've always got tight line in between rod tip and flies, you're always pulling those flies when they're in a seam. Whereas with this, because the only thing that's tight is the line between the nymphs and the indicator fly, you can sort of, well, you can do what I'm doing now, just sort of get the rod over the top of this and get a good quality dead drift out of this without pulling on the flies. So for me, there's a big advantage here for the duo when I'm trying to fish that seamy stuff. Stuck with a caddy scrub just because of the mulchy water. I like that fairly big unit in this slightly coloured, slightly mulchy water. It sort of makes sense to me. Certainly did for that first grayling, that's for sure. Right, let's start to explore that seam over there. This is the reason why I've gone with the duo here as opposed to fishing regular tight line. I can fish this better. In my eyes, I get a better drift out of that with the duo rather than going tight line here and always feeling like I'm affecting the drift of that nymph. Can still make a little mend here every now and again if I need to. I'm not fishing tight to the dry fly. I'm trying to let that thing dead drift as well as I possibly can. A little bit surprised I haven't had a take over there yet. Let's go a little bit further across maybe. Hey, maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe these fish are really on it and they are down the central feed line. Start to make my way up slowly. It's been a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes actually, since that first grayling. I couldn't say I've had a definite take since then. I feel like I'm fishing it pretty well. The theory is holding out in terms of how it's going to fish. I feel like I've got really good control on that far side. Just not drawn the take yet. Could be a fly change coming up soon maybe. Maybe I just stick it out a little bit longer with this caddy scrub. I like it in this heavy water. Okay, creep up a little bit further. We'll go down the inside first. I think we're getting very close to the point here of having to change this fly for something a little bit lighter and probably shorten off the dropper a little bit. Okay, so made that fly change. I've gone to a size 16 improved Duracell with it's got a 2.8mm bead on it, so it's probably about the same weight actually. I find that slotted beads are generally a little bit heavier than countersunks for their relative size, so it's probably not much different in the weight. I've trimmed 6 inches off the dropper just to try to avoid hitting the tops of those big rocks. See if it makes a difference. Surprised I haven't had another proper take yet, I'll be honest. I'd have thought there'd have been more fish in here than what I've seen so far. So we'll give that, oh god, crikey, straight away, literally 2 or 3 casts with the fly change and that fish has eaten it down the inside seam. I think he's got a little bit tangled up in the tippet. Oh, he was. I think he's free again now. Another grayling, just out the inside seam again. Come on buddy, you'll do. Hey. Yeah, improved Duracell came up clutching a couple of casts there. Jeez, he's a lively grayling. Off he goes. Yeah, that worked nicely. We'll pop that up that inside a few more times. I've been joined by some cows at the moment. I'm just hoping they don't get too curious because I've got a camera next to me on the bank up there. We'll fish through here a little bit further. If those cows get too close to the camera up there, I might have to bail that one out. Now I've shortened this dropper down, my ability to fish the main drag of this feed line will be really reduced. I'm just going to be nowhere near the riverbed, and in that speed of water, with the small amount of time that those fish have got to see that nymph coming towards them, I'm just not convinced that it's realistic to expect those fish to be able to intercept that thing in time. Certainly not sort of odds on in the way it is in the edges here. So I'm not going to spend too much time in the main drag. I do want to spend a bit more time in both seams. I'll just fish this below me a little bit, change of fly obviously, so nothing down at the bottom here. Oh, it was a fish. It was a good one as well. Saw it. I was just about to say nothing below me has seen that improved Duracell. They've only seen the caddy scrub. And sure enough, there was a fish down there that did like the look of it. Righty, so just started to notice there that you guys were looking through a tree at me. So I've moved the camera a little bit. Should be out of the way of the cows there as well. We'll just go through this a little bit further. Probably only want to catch one more out of this one. Sort of get the idea of what we're doing here. This is really all about control of those flies, being able to fish either seam effectively, lifting line off the water without having to worry about the extra weight of fly line in the air. This type of pool with fly line is a nightmare because you've got such different speeds of current so close to each other, particularly if you want to fish towards the far side. Geez, it gets difficult, it gets really difficult. Whereas with a mono leader or with a French leader, the way I'm fishing it here, I can just lift all that off without the worry of the weight of the fly line on the water, in the air. Has no impact on those flies at all and we get a take on the far side. Now I have a feeling that's one of Derbyshire's finest wild rainbows. I think it looked like it in the air, zipping around like a rainbow. Sheesh, they really do. They've got a hell of a turn of pace, and this is not a big fish. It's one of the smaller fish I've caught today, I think, but they've got such a turn of pace compared to the browns. Come on, bud. There we go. Yeah, nice, 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 nice. This is one of those things that makes our local fishery pretty unique here in the UK, that we have a strain of wild rainbow trout, and that is a smaller version of one of those guys. Absolutely gorgeous fish. Don't they pull like stink? Okay, well that's another 3 out of there in 10 minutes fishing maybe. I've not been in there very long really. I've worked up that one pretty quickly, and I thought that'd be a good time just to jump out and talk through some of the stuff that we've already worked through. Specifically why I'm fishing the duo and maybe not tight line nymphing, or maybe using an indicator. And we'll start with that one first actually. Obviously we haven't had a fish on the duo dry fly yet, so you might say, well Andy, why don't you just do this with an indicator? And the answer is I often do. If I genuinely thought there was no chance in any of these pools of rising a fish, then I would just use a little indicator, something like one of the Loros balls or something like that. That would be the way I'd do it, because it would hold up more weight. It's got its own weight, so it gives me a little bit more mass to cast with. I would probably do that, but I do genuinely think at this time of year and sort of water temperatures we're dealing with in July that I've got a chance of catching one on the dry fly, so I sort of want to hedge my bets a little bit. The other thing is, with all of the commercially made indicators that I've come across, is actually they're all quite heavy, and particularly on the softer water, I don't like how they land. They land very hard. If we were fishing in the middle of December for Grayling and the water was really coloured and we were fishing in depth, that probably wouldn't matter. But at this time of year, when we're likely to fish in skinnier water, in slightly clearer water, for fish that are a bit fidgety because of the conditions, I actually quite like the fact that that dry fly just lands a little bit more delicately. Makes casting a little bit harder, makes fishing it a little bit more fiddly because you have to keep dressing it. But for me, at this time of year, I would almost always go fly rather than indicator. I guess the other thing with using a duo dry fly is that it means you have to work a little bit harder changing the depths on your dropper every time you move. And you saw there, I had a little bit of a move, changed the fly, changed the depth of the dropper, shortened it up slightly, and all of a sudden I got takes again. May or may not have been something in either of those changes I made. And I know there are people out there who've designed like sliding duo dry fly systems, and they're really cool. Like, props to those people. It's really inventive, really sort of innovative stuff. The problem I've found is I've tried pretty much all of them. Everything I've seen I've given a go, and none of them quite have the tension on the dry fly that I like. And actually I've found using those systems that often I'll make a strike on a dry fly take and the fly will slide because it's designed to slide, but the fly will slide along the leader and actually won't hit the dry fly take. So for me, if I'm going to use the dry fly, if it's something that I genuinely think is going to catch a fish, then I don't want it to slide. I'm going to use it fixed, and I'm going to take the hit with having to just make a few more adjustments to my tippet, to my dropper as I fish. And I personally don't mind that too much at all. What you have seen there in this pool, definitely, and a little bit in the first pool as well, is the advantage of having that longer rod and not having fly line. Just means if we go over to one of those seams on the far side, we can hold that rod right up over that entire pool, get that leader off the water, get really good quality drifts down that far side seam without having it being too impacted by either the flow of the water or the weight of fly line in the air, which as it sags is always pulling on your rig. It's always having an impact on your rig. there'd be an argument in this pool to say, well, you could have fished that tight line probably, Andy, and I'd say, yeah, I probably could, and I'm probably 60-40 on this one. I'm happy with the decision I made. Fishing tight line would have given me a little bit more control over my depth. I could have had more of an effect on the depth as it was going through, particularly the middle area there. But I would still have had the same problem. I'd have needed to fish a lighter fly down the inside so it didn't hit the bottom. I'd have needed to go on heavier down the middle, and then I'd needed to fish lighter again on the far side. So it still presented its own issues fishing tight line through this. I could have done it. Personally, I feel like I did the right thing going duo here. It clearly worked. Those fish are willing to move for that fly, even if it's not hard on the bottom at this time of year. They will move. Metabolic rate is high, so don't worry about those fish not coming off the bottom. They will do if they see it. One little aside I do want to throw in here, just for 60 seconds, just bear with me, is the sunglasses I'm wearing today are a little bit different to the ones I usually wear. I was actually sent these by some friends of ours, Tom and Sean, who run a fantastic lure fishing channel called Snagbro. We've had them on here before, actually. We did some fishing here early on this season. And they mentioned they were doing some new sunglasses, and you know, I've got pretty used to using the top end Costas and Smiths and stuff like that. They said, oh, we'd like to send you a pair, you give them a go. And I was like, oh no, like, so I knew they were going to be a budget sunglass. I was like, I've got to tell these guys that I don't like the sunglasses. And they turned up and I picked them up, and they are a budget sunglass. They don't have any of the fancy stuff you'd expect on a more expensive set of sunglasses. There's no fancy like rubbery nose pads or ear pads or anything like that. But I will say, these surprised me a little bit. They are a much, much, much better polarised lens than I was expecting them to be. They're an interesting colour. I'm going to describe it as sort of rosy copper. They're not quite a copper, but they're not quite a rose either. They're actually, you can almost see it there. They're quite a sensible lens for fishing in all light situations in the UK. And as I say, even though they are a relatively budget sunglass, the quality of the polarisation on the lenses of these is absolutely fantastic. I hope I can film some sort of B-roll to show you just what it's like. But actually, for what is a very cheap pair of sunglasses, I think the guys are knocking these out for like 25 quid or something. If you're looking for a budget sunglass, if you're looking for a spare pair or something like that, I tell you what, for 25 quid, these are brilliant. They're really, really good. These have been a bit of a shock, so good on you, Tom and Sean. You've sourced a really good product there. I'll put a little link in the description box below. If you guys want to support two young lads who are trying to make a dream out of creating fishing YouTube content, then please do go and have a look. As I say, for 25 quid, if you want a spare pair, if you want a backup pair, if you're in the market for a set of budget sunglasses, these Snagbros ones are very, very good. One little feature I didn't mention there is that actually they float. So if they drop off your hat, if you drop them off a boat or something, it's not the end of the world. You can get your sunglasses back. Very cool, very impressed, very surprised. Good work, lads. Right, let's go and do some more fishing. Yeah, so 3 out of that pool was nice, especially as one of them was a wild rainbow. Nice to see those guys kicking around. But I decided I had enough out of there, and I was climbing out and I looked up. And there's a right old system coming over the top of the valley at the moment, which, to be honest, looks to me like rain. Now, I haven't got a coat with me. The cameras I got with me aren't waterproof, so that is not ideal. There was no rain in the forecast today. It's one of the reasons why I've come up today, was that it was the better weather day to do it. So I've decided, I've made a really big move. I've actually moved on to a different river. I'm on a Derwent tributary at the moment. Just an area where I think if it does start to rain lightly, I might be able to keep fishing. Got a little bit of rain protection here that I might not have had where I was before. That's the only reason, really. And if I can get 1 or 2 out of here before that rain starts, I would be absolutely thrilled with that, and I think that'll probably do. As you can see, a much smaller piece of water. It's a piece of water I had in mind to do some duo Euro, do some duo Euro, you guys know what I mean, do some duo Euro in anyway. Because I wanted to fish somewhere a little bit tighter, just to show that you can fish this not just in the real open stuff, but you can fish it in the slightly more tight areas as well. It still works just as well. I've made one change to the rig. I've taken the big clink hammer off and I've put the duo caddis on, that more subtle one. I've noticed there are a few caddis buzzing around at the moment, and to be honest, I just shouldn't need the amount of buoyancy that I get from that big clink hammer, so this thing's probably a bit more imitative, and it's as buoyant as I need it to be honest. And then we've got this lovely pocket down the far side here, just beautiful looking water. As you see here, we're fishing kneeling down. This is low visibility stuff. The water here is a bit clearer. It's a smaller river, so we can't get as over the top of these fish as we have been. And we'll see what happens here before that rain gets here. I will say it feels a different day to how it did previously, that's for sure. Temperatures dropped, lights dropped, cloudy. Doesn't feel quite as fishy as it did before, but I guess we'll see what happens. Still got that little Duracell on, I'm happy with that. Oh, there's a fish. There's a fish. Righty. That was one of the ones we were hoping for. What have we got here? Little brownie, I reckon, on that Duracell. Come here, bud. Come on, don't come off now. There we go. Righty. Nice, nice, nice. Get that Duracell back off him. Thank you very much. Real pretty one. Real pretty brownie. So you can see, as long as I keep everything nice and low during the casting phase and mostly low during the fish playing phase, there's not too much danger, even in amongst all these trees and all these low branches. As long as you're sensible with what you do with that rod tip while you're casting, you can still make the same casts as you have been before. Well, it's been about 60 minutes since you guys last saw me in that pool where I had the little brownie. And in that time I fished 3-4 different pools, real favourites, good pools that I know usually have fish in, particularly for this sort of technique. And other than one mistake on the dry, different piece of, oh, that's one on the dry, and one that was bumped off on the swing when I wasn't expecting it. That'd be really nice. Oh, there's a fish, right at the end of the drift. For 60 minutes of fishing, that is it. That is all that's happened. So I spent about 20 minutes in that last pool. So first hour, less than an hour actually, first 45 minutes I think we had 7 fish and bumped a couple off and it looked absolutely brilliant. Second hour and a half we've put 1 small brownie in the net. It's just completely switched off. That system coming over the top of the valley definitely changed something. It was night and day. The first hour was fantastic. That second hour and a half, to be honest, has fished really tough. I haven't done anything different technically. I've fished the duo the same way I've been fishing it. I feel like I've fished well. I've cycled through the fly changes. Really don't feel like I've done that much wrong, but just haven't had the takes to justify it. Something has changed. So rather than sort of keep going on this and keep trying to push through it, I'm going to call it at that. I think that'll do. While it would have been nice to have put a few more fish in the net in that second 90 minutes or so, I hope at the very least this has given you a little bit of an idea about how you could go about fishing the duo on your Euro nymphing kit. It's a great way of fishing rivers when they're low like this, when you're struggling to get conventional tight line rigs to go through properly without hitting the deck, or when you're having to fish really light flies that are particularly hard to cast on a tight line rig. The duo can just make life a little bit easier for you. You've seen there, not only in the more conventional pools that you'd expect to fish the duo in, but all of a sudden in those really complex pools where you've got lots of flow lines, lots of stuff going on, being able to get that rod tip up nice and high, being able to get that leader up in the air without the sag that you usually get with a fly line, it's a real advantage, and it just means you can fish over lines of flow far more effectively. As ever folks, almost all of the flies that I've used during the course of the session are available on our web shop. I'll put the link for the web shop there. Huge thank you to those of you who have already supported the channel by buying a few bits and pieces on there. I want to mention actually also the French leaders, the 50-meter French leaders that we use are also on the web shop as well. So if you're looking at trying this and you want a new leader to try it out with, then that French leader is absolutely perfect for it. As you've seen today, it'll fish really nicely for you. I'm going to get away now folks, but thank you very much for watching this video. Really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, get in the comment section and let me know if you guys are fishing the duo, if you do a lot on the Euro rig. Do you find it effective? Do you enjoy it? Always interested to hear your guys' opinions, and IB and I are going to catch up with you guys again soon for some more fishing, some more duoing, and hopefully a few more fish in the second half of the day very soon. Take care folks. Bye bye.